Once upon a time, Ekelume was a community that thrived by its custom and its laid down traditions by the forefathers. One of these traditions was the worship of Eruni, the river goddess, and the festivals celebrated in her name. She was served and obeyed for her protection of the people from external forces, victory in battles, and oppositions they faced together as a community. They enjoyed her reign, except that they had to make a human sacrifice every 20 years. These sacrifices were not very difficult to make because the most notorious and criminal person was offered as sacrifice. This year marked the 100th year of the community's existence, and the sacrifices happened enough times to scare everyone into following the traditions and the culture and living honest lives just so they don't end up as scapegoats for the sacrifice. However, the year of harvest was upon them and they had less than 2 months to provide a sacrifice. Ikeora was the community leader and he brought his trusted friends together to find a solution to the matter. They agreed that the requirement of a human sacrifice was becoming too much for the community to offer. So they made an arrangement for a negotiation with the river goddess. A few days later, they sent for her mouthpiece and he arrived. And when they asked if anything could be done at a lesser price instead of sacrificing a human, he said, Eroni has already seen your heart's desires, and she wants nothing to do with the blood of the innocent. Unfortunately, no other sacrifice can qualify a human sacrifice, so it's either human or nothing, and he stormed out of the meeting. Another week passed, and the news of Eroni's verdict had reached the ears of everyone in the community. People started leaving and relocating in a case she picked someone randomly out of anger. Everywhere was in chaos. No one knew what she was capable of because they had never defied her before. Ikeora, the community leader, refused to see anyone for a week. The situation was weighing him down and he was losing time. His wife eventually suggested that he send some of his strongest men with wisdom in diplomacy to travel to other territories and find or buy criminals and prisoners of other kingdoms that were already sentenced to death so they could use them for sacrifice. The next morning, when the 6 men commissioned by the king were set to leave on their journey, Ikiriki stormed in and said, have we so easily forgotten the terms of the covenant with the river goddess? The sacrifice must be one of our people. He stormed out the way he came. The king slumped on his chair in defeat and confusion. More days passed and it was only a few hours until the day of the sacrifice and festival. He decided to go plead with the river goddess himself. When he reached the bank of the river, he cried out to the goddess, my people have lived in peace with you all years, and now we're at a difficult place. I have done all I can to save them, but I don't know what will happen if we do not offer someone to you in the next few hours. A voice called out to him, Ikeora, you have been a great leader, the pride of your ancestors, and the delight of your people. You have found ways to rule in wisdom and show progress and prosperity along with my blessings. But do you easily forget the traditions and cultures that had built Ekelume all these years? She began a story. It had not always been like this, and your ancestors discovered me about half a century ago when Ekelume was filled with a lot of wickedness and evil. Innocent people were dying and the king back then didn't have a solution. The king came to this riverside to think of a way and he started weeping. I couldn't overlook his sadness, so I told him that I could help him solve his problem. I would rid the land of evil and the wicked by striking fear in them, and I would bring justice to the land. But he must make human sacrifice to me every 20 years. Failure to keep to this covenant will release my wrath, and whip out the community forever. But it can only be broken with the blood of a noble man and a honest leader who is willing to sacrifice himself to close the covenant. Ikeora could not believe his ears. He knew about the terms and conditions of the covenant, but he didn't know there was a way to close it, and most especially that it would require his blood. He looked down at his hands and then up to the sky. He wept for a few minutes and then said, "If it will take my life to save my people, then so be it. I offer myself to you to close this covenant once and forever." He stood up and started walking into the river. With each step he took, he felt his life leaving him. The next morning, the people were looking for him and found his offal at the back of the river. At once, they knew they were finally free, and their loving leader paid the great price. Ekelume lived in peace and prosperity for the rest of its days. For more amazing tales, kindly subscribe to our channel and follow us at Folklore. Bye.